For many of us, this is a very interesting question, and really it starts in the household. If your daughter doesn't see you reading, she's not going to want to read most of the time. I mean, you may have some parents that are not into reading like that, and then you have the children who are bookworms. But that's most of the time that's not the case. If you're trying to encourage your children to read, they have to see at some point in time you reading also. If you're telling your child to read Quran more, and the child never sees you reading Quran, what is going through that child's mind? So I mean, it starts with you as a parent, and it starts when children are very young. As even some of the doctors, they have this thing now where you start to read to the children even when they're in the womb, even when they're in the stomach, that you read to the child. And even as the child comes out, you read to the child, because you're developing within the child, or instilling within the child, a desire to learn. And that starts at a young age. You can't wait till your child is 15, 16 years old and want to start making them read more. That's something that you have to do when the child is younger. But you can also never underestimate the power of dua. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the Quran, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to make a dua where he was said, Allahumma inni as'aluka bi kulli ismin huwa lak samayta bihi nafsak أو أنزلته في كتابك أو علمت أحدا من خلقك أو استأثرته في العلم الغيب من عندك أن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع القلب. He said, oh Allah, I ask you by every name that you have named yourself with, or any name that you have revealed in your book, or any name that you have taught anyone from your creation, meaning the prophets and messengers, or any name that you have kept for yourself with the knowledge of the unseen that you haven't revealed to us, which shows us that there are more than 99 names. This is the dalil that the ulama used to show that there's more than 99 names, because there are names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept with himself, that you make the Quran beloved to my heart. And this was the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is a dua that we make for our children. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place a love for the Quran in the hearts of our children, to make our children love the Quran, to make our children love the Sunnah. And then it starts by us teaching them. As Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, كان السلف يعلمون أولادهم حب أبي بكر وعمر كما كانوا يعلمونهم سورة من القرآن. Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that the Salaf, they used to teach their children to love Abu Bakr and Umar, just as they would teach them a surah from the Quran. Just as they would teach them a surah from the Quran. So it starts when the children are young, and then until it becomes habitual with the children to read. You take a particular time out in your night, or read to your children before they go to sleep. This is another excellent way to make the children, so much so that if you skip a night, your child will come and say, Abby or Umi, you didn't read to me last night. Or they'll remind you to read to me, because you're making it a habit now. It becomes habitual. Something that we make a pact with ourselves, this is something I will do every night before I go to sleep. And take a story from the Quran, Yusuf alayhi salam. Take a story, Musa, Fir'aun. Take a story from the Quran, Ibn Kathir's stories of the prophets is an excellent book to start with. Then they have other smaller books that have been written for children's books. You have to shop around. And of course, ascertain the authenticity of the information if it's written or compiled by people who we do not know their level of knowledge, nor do we know, the authenticity of the information that they compiled. That these are things that instill within our children a love for reading, a love for hearing about the prophets and messengers. And then make dua for our children. Make dua for our children that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the Quran be loved to their hearts. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. It says, can you please explain how adoption works in Islam? We are attempting to adopt my niece from my sister, inshallah ta'ala. This is an excellent question. This is an excellent question. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer for it, but it's an excellent question. And inshallah ta'ala, I will keep this question with me, and the next time, as we were anticipating a telelink with one of the scholars today, although this is the last day of Dhul Hijjah, the last day of the Ayyam al-Tashriq, well, last night was anyway, So it's very difficult to get in touch with the Mashaykh now, because many of them, if not all of them, are probably making Hajj, and they have lectures and everything that they do when they're on Mina. So it's very difficult, unfortunately. But I will, inshallah ta'ala, keep this question with me. And once we get the answer to the question, I don't know if the sister is here in this community, but if so, she is, and I will keep Brother Abu Dawood informed or abreast of when I get the answer to this question, as this is an excellent question. These are the type of questions that we're talking about. These are the type of questions that is important, and it shows that the sister who sent this question has some inaya, emphasizes this particular aspect of the religion. How do we adopt in Islam? As many of us, even if you can have children, the Prophet ﷺ, many of his wives, like Salama, she had many children that she adopted. Not necessarily adopted in that manner like we know today, but some of the men from the Sahaba who were married, they got martyred in the battles and they left behind children. So some of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ and other women, they used to take these children and would raise them, like Salama and others other than her. So this was something that, and not only Muslim children, but even children from the Kuffar. Not saying that the women of the Sahaba, I'm saying that in our time now, is it permissible? Let's ask a question even better than this. Is it permissible to adopt a child that was a child of zina from the Kuffar? They have adoption agencies, and these children are not Muslim children. Is it permissible for us as Muslim parents to adopt a child? And if we adopt the child, now that brings some other questions. If I adopt this child, is this child lawful for my children? Does this child become a mahram for my children? Which is something that I'm going to add here, just so I don't forget. So when we do ask, because these are questions that are very pertinent to our communities. And it shows that as Muslims, we are involved. As you have Christians, they go to these adoption agencies and they adopt. As Muslims, no Muslim has walked up in there and adopted anybody. And then not to mention how the Muslim children, when we adopt them and bring them into our households, how they turn out. They turn out as standard members of society, pious, God-fearing, and everything else. And it shows that that they will be more readily to allow the Muslims to adopt from them than anyone else. And this is a form of da'wah. So this is a very important question, but inshallah ta'ala we'll try to get the question answered. What is the verdict on spanking and disciplining our children? Disciplining is permissible Islamically. Disciplining is permissible Islamically. I try to stay away from the word spanking only due to the fact that we might have some diapers workers in here. You don't know who you're talking to. You laughing, I'm dead serious. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who you're talking to. And we have to be the English language is a vast language. We just have to up our vocabulary, and there's many different ways that you can say things without saying it directly or being so blatant about it. But disciplining our children, I like that word a little better because it's a little more comprehensive, it's a little more general, and spanking could be included in that. Making them stand in the corner could be included in that. Taking all of his toys away from him can be included. All of that is included in disciplining. And yes, Islamically it's permissible for us to discipline our children. That's what I will say. I'm not saying it's permissible to spank. I said it's permissible to discipline our children. How you choose to discipline your children, that's on you. Some people may not see spanking to be something that they want to do. Some people may not see putting a child in the corner for 5 minutes something that they want to do. However, you decide to discipline your child, that's on you. But disciplining the children Islamically is permissible. But just to remember that our children are still our brothers and sisters in Islam. Our children are still our brothers and sisters in Islam, and you want for your brother what you want for yourself. So even in disciplining our children, we don't want to transgress the boundaries, and we don't want to punish the child for something that he didn't do, nor do we want to punish the child more than what he deserves. All of these things have to be taken into consideration when we talk about discipline, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. What kind of names are we not allowed to give our children? The names that are specifically to the kuffar, names that glorify and magnify their idols, glorify and magnify, their deities. You're not going to name your child Buddha. Of course, that would be condoning, and magnifying their deities. But we should ask, what names are we allowed to name our children? And that's the names of the Sahaba, the names of the Tabi'un, the beloved names to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Abdullah, and anything that has Abdul